Hi, welcome back to the workshop. In my last video, when I installed my new router and lift in the table, put a link up down below, I said you can expect some router table projects coming up in the future. Well, here's the first of those. A nice and simple stand to take the coffee pods used in those Nespresso machines. Other makes are available. So the stand, as I said, very simple. It's a 10-degree angle with a little support piece at the back, 4 slots for the pods to go in, so they drop in nice and easy. But apparently, quite importantly, you can extract your chosen pod with one hand. Doesn't it remind you of one of those 1980s family games? Connect Pod. So the pods start life as a simple blank. I'll put all of the details that you need to make one in the description down below, but the blank is from any wood that you feel like using, offcut that you've got left in the workshop, or something that's got a nice grain pattern on it. I've got 2 to make in oak and 2 in utility. This one's in beech, but softwood's fine. So the blank's 300mm long, 260mm wide and 30mm thick. Once I've got my blank cut to size, the first thing I do is sand it to 180 grit, so I've got less to do at the end, because once all of these rebate slots are cut, then you stand a chance of catching the sandpaper on the edge and chipping out and ripping the paper. So the more you can do to begin with, the better. So I'm going to start by installing a 1/2" twin flute bit. Spiral bit would be better. Spiral upcut bit would be ideal because it would leave the edge really nice and clean. But I don't have one of those, so a 2 flute cutter is going to do. And I'm going to set the height at 5mm. Because it's a 1/2" bit and I need to cut a 30mm slot, I'm going to have to take it in 3 passes. And I don't want to overload the bit, so I'm going to go with 5mm and then reset to 10 and reset to 15. And just before I start to cut, I'm going to set my fence directly over the centre of my router bit, so that when I change bits later, I'll know the fence will still be in the correct alignment. I'll lock the fence off and zero my scale. With my fence position set, last job before I start cutting is to mark a point 80mm up from one edge of the blank. Then position that in line with the centre of the bit, and then set an end stop on my fence to govern the depth of the slot on the face of the blank. So the process is really quite simple. With all of the setup performed, the first cut is made with the fence backed off to 36mm, second cut of 54mm, and the third and final cut for the first slot of 47. As I've got 4 coffee pod stands to make, then I'm going to set 36mm 4 passes, 54mm 4 passes, 47mm 4 passes, and then I can advance to the next. Again, don't worry about trying to write it all down. I'll make sure all of the sizes that you need to make this and all the details are in the description below. Before attempting this particular project, I strongly recommend that you make sure that you've got a really good push block. I use one that I got from Incra. I'm not sure if Woodworkers Workshop still sell them or whether they've got them. If I can find a link to it, I'll pop it down below with the other details. So that's the first pass complete on all pieces. So I'm now going to reset the bit height to 10mm. And do it again. Before I change the bit and route the slots for the lip of the pods to slide in, I'm just going to knock these ears off with my chisel. So I'm going to give myself a bit of a shoulder just by eyeballing down at the slot. where to mark the shoulder line too. Then I'll knock off the worst of that. Just so there's less for the chisel to push out the way. So I'm just going to swap the bit out for the slot cutter, and then I can cut the slots. Setting the height for this bit, it's really important that we get it either exactly or just a fraction higher, so that this top bit of the cutter doesn't leave a little shoulder. So I'm going to shoot for that. I think I'm pretty good. Two things to note before you start the T cut. This first one is a climb cut. The bit is actually going to scoop the timber out in the direction that I'm pushing the timber. So I need to make doubly sure this time that I've got a good hold on the piece so that the bit doesn't rip it out my hands and throw it up against the fence. And secondly, because it's a wider cut, I need to turn the speed on the router down. With those two things sorted, we're good to go. With all my pod slots cut, that was difficult to say. I'm now going to set the blade angle to approximately 10 degrees. Doesn't have to be exact. Lock it in place, and then I'm going to lop the bottom 50mm off of each piece. Quick point to note, if your blade tilts to the right the same as mine, slots face up. If your blade tilts to the left, slots face down. I've got a 9mm radius round over bit that I'm using to put a nice curve on the back of the support piece, and also on each side and the very top of the stand itself. I got 3.2mm round over bit in my DeWalt palm rotor this time, and I'm going to go down each of the slots before I do the top, because with the round over on the side it'll help to resist any breakout on that very top bit. And then I'm going to flip the piece over and do the back of the top, or the top of the back. Now I'm going to give it a thorough going over with 180 grit prior to the burning. So to clamp the piece, I've simply got two pieces of MDF, the baseboard cut at 10 degrees, and then the upstand screwed onto the end of it, so that I can take the main body of the coffee pod stand, place it face downwards, and then clamp just on the top lip there, so that the arm of the clamp just extends up the top there at the back, but uses the body of the board, the edge of the board, as a guide. When I place my support piece in, it'll sit perfectly aligned between the two clamps, yet still allow me to remove it to pop the glue on. Now, small spot of your preferred adhesive. This is Titebond 2, not using Titebond 3 because it doesn't have to be food safe. So the clamp bars look really perfectly positioned, and job's a bobby. And finally, time for the finish. And I'm just going to use some mineral oil just to bring out the grain. Now I've soaked the cloth, just a plain white cotton cloth, in the mineral oil so I can get it in the back of those slots. And for those hard to reach places, just a little brush. Make sure I've got complete coverage. And that's it, they're done. Fourth one still in the clamps, my apologies. Nice simple round table project, but with, I hope you'll agree, a great result. Hope you'll give it a try. Thanks very much for watching, and see you next time. Ta-ra.